Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We have some updates for you. First off, we are going to talk about some earthquakes. Second off, we're going to be talking about what is going to happen probably within the next 24 to 48 hours. So folks, this is serious. This is go time. This is go time. Now, folks, I don't even like to talk about this. I've been trying to avoid this all day long. I don't want to be able to talk about this. I wish I didn't have to. Folks, we have a dilemma here erupting right in front of us. The House of Representatives passed a continuing resolution just about 2 hours ago. Just hours before a potential government shutdown. That shutdown is going to happen possibly as early as just less than 4 hours from now. This includes, if we have this continuing resolution voted on in the Senate, this would include having a 45-day continuing resolution with disaster relief funds in case of another flood, another major disaster, and yes, New York has been buried in floodwaters for the past 48 hours. Subways are in danger of collapsing in New York because of the additional floodwaters that are up there. 6 inches of water on the street and 6 inches of water that has been making its way down into the subways in New York. People are flooded. Basements are flooded in New York. So we have a disaster looming in New York and other disasters that could be happening. Okay? So we have a continuing resolution that would include disaster relief funds, an extension of a federal flood insurance program, a flood insurance program, and FAA, Federal Aviation Administration reauthorization, meaning planes continue to fly, but no Ukrainian aid in the House bill. No Ukrainian aid was submitted in the House bill. House Democrats were furious, even though some House Democrats did vote for the continuing resolution. However, now the bill is before the United States Senate. The United States Senate doesn't like it because the Democrats, want the continuing resolution to include aid to Ukraine. That's the biggest thing. The Senate is expected to vote on the House-passed resolution within the next few hours. First off, I need to tell you this. Senator Michael Bennet from Colorado, he's a Democrat communist. He doesn't like this resolution because it does not include Ukraine aid. It does not include Ukraine aid. What does all this mean between the House and the Senate? Again, Democrat Bennet does want the Ukraine bill, or the continuing resolution bill, to include Ukraine aid. He doesn't care whether the government shutdown happens or not. Democrats are very happy that no border toxins were included in the House's recently passed bill. In other words, the toxins were building the fence, reestablishing the fence, more Border Patrol agents on the border, and the border being shut down over there that would limit the amount of people that would be able to come across. None of that was included in this bill. So Democrats will still get all of their 11,000 plus people flowing across the border every day. Every day. Representative Patrick T. McHenry, who is a Republican from North Carolina, said there's a deal in the House that includes a 45-day continuing resolution with disaster relief funds, an extension of the federal flood insurance program, the FAA reauthorization, but no Ukraine aid. This latest continuing resolution proposal also comes after weeks of infighting among Republicans and Democrats that kept them from funding the government. Like I said, the government could still shut down at midnight tonight, which is less than 4 hours away. Unable to keep the government open, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Republican from California, and Republicans are now asking Democrats in the House to pass their bill to keep the government open. Senator Minority Leader Mitch McConnell in the Senate has said Republicans in his chamber will vote against advancing the bipartisan proposal in their chamber, at least for now. McConnell is saying this: I am very confident that most of our members are going to vote against cloture, against the House bill. Not necessarily because they're opposed to the underlying bill, but to see what the House can do on a bipartisan basis itself. In other words, the Senate wants to come in and come up with their own bipartisan bill, regardless of what the House does. And if the Senate does that, they will have to send their bill back to the House to get approved by the House, which is going to contain, or not contain, but will continue this throughout the night, which will include shutting the government down. He's recommending a no vote. McConnell in the Senate is recommending a no vote on the House bill, even though he says, I very much want to avoid a government shutdown. Really, Mr. McConnell, you basically have lost your mind. You don't want the government to shut down, but you're recommending a no vote on the resolution. Now, what does it all mean coming together? More than 800,000 federal civilian employees will be sent home without pay during the shutdown. More than 800,000 federal employees will be sent home without pay during the shutdown. There will also be probably another 150,000 federal employees who are emergency management employees, police, firefighters, and medical personnel assigned to the government. Similarly, what happened to me in 1995. I was considered emergency essential, so I had to continue working without pay. I had to work without pay, and that's what's going to happen if the government does get shut down. Furloughs are a major one major item at stake. The Biden administration will furlough 820,000 federal employees across the government if Congress cannot cinch together a spending bill in the next 4 hours. According to estimates from the Federal Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, this means they would be sent home without pay and forbidden to work. Now, as the Republicans made their way out of the meetings today and back into the Senate chamber, Senator Patty Murray from Washington was asked a slew of questions. When's the vote? What's the pathway for extending Ukraine funding? She said, quote, you're going to have to ask the leader. In other words, McConnell. Murray said, I fully expect that we will do the right thing for our country and will be able to do the right thing for Ukraine. We're not giving up. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. She's a Democrat. She said Senate Democrats have concluded that uninterrupted aid to Ukraine is their top goal, adding that aid negotiations will be saved for a supplemental request. She said, I believe there's a bunch of Republicans who are with Ukraine. The big test is going to be what happens with the supplemental aid and what happens in the next few weeks. In other words, they don't give a darn about the next few hours. They want a shutdown. Klobuchar says we'll do everything we can to make sure that aid to Ukraine is uninterrupted. Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, again another Democrat, said after leaving a meeting of the Senate Democrats, I think there's more than possible to do. That's more than possible to do. Blumenthal said there's still no set path for how this additional funding would be secured, adding that the Senate will continue negotiating the aid over the next few days. In other words, hinting at a closure of the government. As for the continuing resolution, Blumenthal said no Democrats indicated they are going to vote against it over its lack of funding for Ukraine. They didn't say they wouldn't vote against it. He expects a vote on the House-passed continuing resolution within the next few hours. The total analysis of this thing, the shutdown deal would avoid political pain for moderate Republicans in the House. But nobody cares about the American people. That's basically the last straw on the whole thing. In the next couple hours, we should know what the government is going to shut down, and if necessary, I'll be back on the air to talk about it. Second, we've had some earthquakes that I want to talk about. We've had some earthquakes that I want to talk about. First off, okay, look at the earthquakes here. We have 4 earthquakes here. This earthquake I highlighted here that shows a 4.65 earthquake, that was a 4.7. That was a 4.7. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to show you something else. Because, folks, guess what they've done? Guess what they've done? They have decided that they didn't want to talk about this earthquake. We're going to look at the USGS map in just a minute. This is the earthquake that happened at 1:16 p.m. Eastern Time today. 93 miles west of Ferndale, California, on the Gorda Escarpment. The Gorda Escarpment is that red line that you see there running away from the California North Coast, or North California coast, running out into the Pacific Ocean. The Gorda Escarpment is the southern end of the Cascadia Subduction Zone region. So here we have another 5.0 earthquake. It's listed here as a 4.9, but this was at least a 5.0 earthquake. Now, given everything that we know here, let me move this over. Okay? You can see this 4.65, it was a 4.7. These other earthquakes were 3s. These other 2 earthquakes near the coast were 3s. This one over here on the far left side, it's the one over here on the right that you see to the right of the 5.0 here. That was also 3.9. Now, you see all the earthquakes here. Okay? You see 6 earthquakes listed here now. What do we really see? I believe, folks, we're going to have a larger quake. I believe this was a foreshock of a much larger earthquake that's going to hit here. I believe this is a foreshock of a much larger earthquake that's going to occur here, down here in the southern region of the Cascadia Subduction Zone. Okay? This still also remains to be seen. These earthquakes you see there, that 4.65 and those other 2 right there, they're on the Mendocino Fault, the Mendocino Ridge. This ridge is another earthquake zone, fault zone, that goes inland from the from the Gorda Escarpment. It runs almost straight east from the Gorda Escarpment into the land there, into the landmass there, the Mendocino Ridge. The Mendocino Ridge, folks, is also a very dangerous fault zone. So we're going to find out what's going to happen here, probably within the next, I want to say, maybe even 18 hours. Okay, if it goes more than 24 hours, this is all we're going to see. But if something else happens within the next 18 hours, I will think we're going to have a much larger earthquake down here off the coast of Northern California. A much larger earthquake. Why? What do we know about this? Okay? Over here in Ferndale, California, remember we had an earthquake offshore from Ferndale? They said it was a 6.8. They reduced it to a 6.4. And at the time, I gave you all the information you needed to know that it was a much larger earthquake, an 8.0. That earthquake that hit here off the coast of Ferndale, California earlier this year was an 8.0 major earthquake. And it did do a lot of damage on land here. The earthquake itself was off the coast. The only reason there wasn't more damage on land was because the ocean waters absorbed a great deal of the shocking, of the seismic shock. We still had a lot of shaking going on, but the water offshore absorbed some of the seismic shock. I believe we're going to have a much larger earthquake. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Now, folks, this is not all. This is not all. Let's go down and look at the USGS map. Okay, I want to show you that. Why are we looking at this? Because I just want to touch on the major earthquakes that have hit here. And as you can see, okay, they're only listing this 3.7 earthquake that was just to the right, just east of the 5.0 earthquake that hit here earlier today. Isn't it interesting? This earthquake happened at 12:43 p.m. today, just about a half hour before the 5.0. Why did they remove the 5.0? Because, folks, the USGS has got a big stick stuck up under their butt. They don't want to admit that there was just a large earthquake off the coast. They took it down. What a bunch of boneheads the USGS are. They think we're stupid. They think we're stupid. Okay? It's insane what they think that they can get away with. Now, I want to also go up here. Okay? We're only showing this earthquake up here just around Juneau, Alaska today. This was a minor 2.5 earthquake 25 miles east-northeast of Juneau. However, USGS and the Canadians are not showing this. There's two earthquakes here, near Sitkin, Alaska, and Edgecombe Volcano. Two volcanoes right here, and we're still getting earthquakes hitting this area. Folks, I think we need to be ready to admit we may have a volcanic eruption here, probably at Edgecombe Volcano. We may be getting ready to have an eruption at Edgecombe Volcano, just so you know. I'm going to go over and take a look at Hawaii. You need to know what's going on at Hawaii. Right before we came onto the air, we had a brand new earthquake here. This is a 2.3 earthquake over here on the east flank of Mauna Loa. A 2.3 minor earthquake on the eastern flank of Mauna Loa. This is concerning. This earthquake was 1/10 of a mile deep. 1/10 of a mile deep. Okay? Probably about 400 feet deep 400 feet below the surface. Magma, folks. Magma's here below the surface, and it's that close to coming out of the volcano. We may see another eruption over here at Mauna Loa. I'm just saying. North of there, this is a 2.3 here. A 2.3. This is even deeper. This is 6.6 miles deep. 6.6 miles deep. Just over 11 kilometers deep. These other earthquakes that you see here, south and east of Kilauea, these are in Pahala. These are in Pahala. This is a 1.8. This is a 2.4 minor earthquake. This is a 1.8. Right here is another 1.8. And this earthquake right here is a 2.0. Pahala. Pahala is the distribution point for incoming magma to the Big Island. To the Big Island. What is this earthquake offshore? This is a 3.2 small earthquake at Loihi. Loihi. Loihi is a subterranean volcano, an undersea mount volcano. Okay? This is a small earthquake at Loihi, the undersea mount volcano. That undersea mount volcano, I believe, is getting ready to blow. We already have one over near Japan. We also have one over in the northern Mariana Islands area, in the Mariana Trench. And it has been blowing. Okay? We've had volcanic rock that's floating on the surface of the water there. We have volcanic rock floating on the surface of the water over the Mariana Trench. That's not the case yet here at Loihi. Okay, but a 3.2 earthquake here, okay, it's rumbling. It's more than interesting to note that this is 16.5 miles deep. 16.5 miles deep. So folks, we're just watching this. I don't think it's getting ready to blow necessarily, but it's possible. It's a pretty good sized earthquake. A 3.2 earthquake here at Loihi, just off the coast of the Big Island here. Okay? So we have that. Okay? Let's go over here to Japan. Over here at Hokkaido. Hokkaido. This is on shore of the island. This is the northernmost large island in Japan. This is a moderate 4.4 earthquake. This probably woke a few people up here. Okay? At 07:29 a.m. Eastern Time today. The middle of the night in Japan. These guys got woken up to a 4.4 moderate earthquake. 4.4 can shake pictures off of walls, throw books and knickknacks off of shelves, rattle plates and bowls in cupboards or anywhere else. Okay? Then, just east of Honshu, we had another 4.4 here. This is 16 miles deep. 16 miles deep. 89 miles east of Yamata, Japan. On the fault zone. This is out in the water, on the fault zone. Nobody felt this earthquake. The seismic energy was absorbed by the ocean water. Also southeast of Japan in the Izu Islands. This is a 4.5 moderate earthquake here, a mid-range 4.5. This is 6.2 miles deep, 10 kilometers deep. On the earthquake fault here again. Okay? We drop down into Indonesia. This is more than just interesting, guys. This is a 4.4 in Ternate, Indonesia. There's a volcano down there, a 4.4 earthquake, 26 miles deep. Okay? Just southeast of there in Seram, Indonesia, or Seram, Indonesia. This is another 4.4, this time 4.2 miles deep. Over here, this is just south of Java, south of Semeru volcano. This is another 5.0 earthquake out in the ocean, and it's on the edge of the plate here. The edge of the plate. A large earthquake on the edge of the plate. 7 different plates in this region subducting one under the other. And a large earthquake here. A while back I had a lady write me and ask me, why are we having so many earthquakes in Indonesia? Why? Because we have 7 different plates, one subducting under the other. That's why there's so many earthquakes in Indonesia. Now, you don't see many listed here by the agency because they don't want you to see them. There's about 25 earthquakes here in Indonesia today. USGS, they're silent about it. Over here in Papua New Guinea, we have a 4.8 moderate earthquake here. Remember we had a large earthquake here yesterday? Kokopo, Indonesia, or Papua New Guinea. Kokopo, Papua New Guinea. Today, a 4.8 earthquake here. Further south, this is in the Loyalty Islands. The Loyalty Islands south of Vanuatu. Another 5.0 earthquake. Another 5.0 earthquake. Let's go further south. USGS is about to take this one down. This happened yesterday evening, 8:31 p.m. Eastern Time. This was a 5.8 earthquake. A 5.8 earthquake down here on the Antarctic Ridge. You can see where that red line is? That is the Antarctic Ridge. This is just one more tectonic plate here. One more tectonic plate south of Australia. Macquarie Island. West of Macquarie Island down here. A 5.8 very large earthquake. Fortunately, nobody lives down there, and USGS just took it down. Go figure. Right as we're talking about it, they took it off the map. Okay? Going back here north. Okay? This is near Ohunua, Tonga. Ohonua, Tonga. Ohunua, Tonga. Moderate 4.8 earthquake. This is also 6.2 miles, 10 kilometers deep. This is 140 miles, actually about 145 miles south of Ohunua, Tonga. I have friends that live there. This one here is a 4.6 moderate earthquake. This is 20 miles southwest of Hihifo, Tonga. I also have friends there. This is 64 miles deep over here on this earthquake fault here. This is right on the fault. Right on the fault. Going over here. Can't ignore this. This is also a moderate earthquake over here in Afghanistan. 131 miles deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake by earthquake standards. This is a 4.1 just north of there. This is 6.2 miles deep. 6.2 miles deep and 100 miles deep. Isn't it interesting? The 100-mile deep earthquake is down in what they call the ascensor, where the plastic magma is. Okay? But isn't it interesting that they don't show any other earthquakes in this region? There are earthquakes here. Okay? Let's go over here to this other earthquake that they're showing here. This is over here in the Dokanese Islands of Greece. In the Dokanese Islands of Greece, right up, almost right next to the western shore of Turkey. This is a 4.1 earthquake. A 4.1 earthquake about 10 kilometers deep. 5.7 miles, 10 kilometers deep. A moderate earthquake over here. And again, they're not showing all the earthquakes. Again, there's about 20 earthquakes here around the mainland of Greece. Around the mainland of Greece right here. There's 1 or 2 over here in Crete, and there's about a half dozen over here in the Dokanese Islands that they're not showing us. But they picked this one to show it. A 4.1 earthquake in the Dokanese Islands that belong to Greece. They're right over here next to Turkey. Just so you know. Okay? They're also not showing any earthquakes here in Italy. There are. There's eruption of 2 volcanoes over here, Stromboli and Mount Etna here, just off the southern coast of Italy here. 2 very strong volcanoes. Unreal. More earthquakes here in France. Northern Italy here, up here in the Alps. France, Germany, Austria, earthquakes. Over here in Spain, we have earthquakes, and they have the almighty gall to talk to us about a 4.0 here in northern Spain. It's not the only earthquake here. A 4.0 moderate earthquake here. This is also 6.2 miles, 10 kilometers deep. More earthquakes over here, south of Spain, but just over here, east of the Strait of Gibraltar. Another earthquake over here in Morocco. This is also a 4.0 earthquake, but they're not telling the story. There's more than a 4.0 earthquake here. Okay? There's a lot more than that. Some 3,000 people were killed here in Morocco just about 1 month ago after that very strong, very major earthquake hit here. 3,000 plus people were killed, and they're still looking for bodies. And yet we only have one 4.0 earthquake here. It's interesting. It's interesting. They're not showing any earthquakes here in the Atlantic, nothing here in the Azores, nothing here in the Canary Islands. They're not showing any earthquakes over here in Iceland. There are about 8 earthquakes here in Iceland. There's one here between Greenland and Canada here. They're not showing that. Why not? Why not? Over here in South America, this happens all the time. There's about 25 earthquakes here in South America. Most over here around Chile and Argentina, going up into Bolivia here, Peru, and Colombia. But they're not showing all of them because they don't think they have to. This is a 4.2 here near La Liga, and I know I'm butchering the name of that, La Liga, Ligua, 4.2 earthquake here, 17 miles deep. Just south of it is a 4.3, 10.2 miles deep. Okay? Both of them are here along the shoreline. Along the shoreline. Moderate earthquakes. For the most part, I don't think anybody along the shoreline felt it. Okay? 1, they're moderate quakes. 2, the water absorbed the shock waves of those quakes. This one over here, between Chile and Argentina. 51 miles west of San Antonio de los Cobres, Argentina. In the mountains here. In the Andes Mountains here of Chile and Argentina. 4.5 moderate earthquake there. North of there, this is another 4.4 near Potosi, Bolivia. Potosi, Bolivia. This is also on the border area between Peru and Chile as well. Okay, just so you know. Earthquakes here. We also have a volcano down here in southern Peru that's been erupting, Sabancaya volcano. Okay, over here in Ecuador, we have two volcanoes, Sangay and Reventador, that are erupting, and yet they're not showing any earthquakes here. Up here in Colombia, we have another volcano erupting up here, Nevados de Ruiz. Nevados de Ruiz here in Colombia that's erupting, and they're not showing any earthquakes at all. One earthquake in Venezuela, they're not showing there. They're not showing any earthquakes here in Central America. They're not showing any earthquakes at all here in southern Mexico. Why? This should be a felony. This should be a felony against USGS. There's small and moderate earthquakes hitting here in the southern border area of southern Mexico. Meaning, what do we have? Swarms of earthquakes again. We're going to have a larger earthquake here in southern Mexico. We're going to have a larger earthquake here in southern Mexico. What's going on here in the southern United States in the west? Off the coast here. This is off the coast, just barely west of San Clemente, California. Okay, I used to surf here. I'm very familiar with this area. This is 8 miles south-southeast. This is stupid. This is south-southwest of San Clemente. USGS has it as south-southeast of San Clemente. How stupid are they? How stupid is the USGS having it south-southeast of San Clemente? It is south-southwest of San Clemente. A 1.6 tremor. Okay? Over here, further east, the Anza Gap. The Anza Gap. A 0.9 microquake here. This is a 1.2 tremor here in the Anza Gap. This is a 0.9 in Idlewild, also confirmed to be part of the Anza Gap. And this earthquake here, also near Idlewild, is 0.9 microquake, and south of there. This is also 0.7 here in the Anza Borrego Desert area here. This whole area here in northeast San Diego County is the Anza Borrego Desert State Park. We have usually tons and tons of earthquakes here. I don't believe they're showing them all here. Shame on the USGS again. This earthquake here is in Julian, east San Diego County in the mountains. A beautiful area, especially this time of year. It's apple season in Julian, by the way. If you're in Southern California, I would highly recommend a drive to Julian for hot apple pie and cider. Hot apple pie, ice cream, and cider here in Julian. The leaves are changing, a little bit of nip is in the air. It's awesome. Go up to Julian and have some apple pie, and believe it or not, tell them I sent you. I spent a lot of, not just a lot, but a great deal of time in Julian, California. I love it there. It's very beautiful this time of year. There are bed and breakfasts there. There are restaurants to see, curio shops to see. There's even a small museum there in the middle of town. A great place to stop for a day in the mountains in Julian, California, in the east San Diego County mountains. Further east over here, this is at the top of the Chocolate Mountains here. Top of the Chocolate Mountains. This is a 1.0 earthquake. 1.0 tremor here. These two earthquakes are influenced by the San Jacinto Fault. The San Jacinto Fault. But again, they're not going to show all the earthquakes here at all. They're just not going to. Down here in the southern part of the Imperial Valley here, this whole area that you see here south of the Salton Sea, this is the Imperial Valley, including the Salton Sea. But down here in the southernmost part of the Imperial Valley is a place that they call Heber, California. Look at the swarm of earthquakes happening here in Heber. This is a 1.6. This is a 1.6 in Calexico, right at the border of the U.S. and Mexico, Calexico, California. That's a 1.6. This is a 1.7 here, and this is also 1.8 near Heber. So we're seeing some earthquakes here, but they're not saying all or showing us all the earthquakes. We have some tremors and we have some earthquakes here in Holtville, California. Over here in Imperial, California, right here, we have a bunch of earthquakes here, even 3.0s. They're not telling us about. Over here, folks, this is El Centro Naval Air Station. El Centro Naval Air Station. There is a seismograph there. They're recording 2s and 3s and even 3.5s, and I believe even a 4.0 here in El Centro. Okay? Now, let's go over here just to the southern end of the Salton Sea. Over here, this is Calipatria, California. Calipatria, California. There's over 100 earthquakes here today. There's over 100 earthquakes right here in the Calipatria area. Guerin, Cotton, Pick, and Teed. If I were to show you the seismogram, we would see over 100 earthquakes right here. Guaranteed. In fact, I would even dare say that there's probably close to 200 earthquakes here in the Calipatria area. Fact. Fact. Okay? The other day when we talked about this area, this is Bombay Beach. This is where the San Andreas Fault runs underneath the Salton Sea. Before this, it runs right beside the Salton Sea here, on the eastern side of the Salton Sea. It comes up here to Bombay Beach, and it goes underneath the Salton Sea here. Bombay Beach, 3.5 and 4.0 earthquakes here, as a result of the San Andreas Fault. Just a little historical note. When the San Andreas Fault enters the Imperial Valley up here, they term it the Imperial Fault. So if you ever hear the San Andreas Fault called the Imperial Fault, it's only because the San Andreas Fault exists down here in the Imperial Valley. They call it the Imperial Fault. But for all intents and purposes, it's still the San Andreas Fault. And then it runs south from there down into Mexico. Okay? But that's what's going on here. There are a lot of earthquakes happening here, and I fully expect a much larger earthquake that hit here. It's going to hit here. Down here in Mexico, this is Puebla, Baja California. This is a 1.7 tremor. A 1.7 tremor. With all these earthquakes here in the Imperial Valley, you can expect to see a much larger earthquake here very soon. Again, for those people that are in Southern California, go take a drive down to Julian, California, in the southeast California mountains in San Diego. A beautiful area. Get some apples to take home, get some hot apple pie, and have a day of it. A great place. A great place, guys. Okay, I've shown you a little bit around the world. Also, I want to point out another earthquake just happened here. This is Bridgeport, California. Bridgeport, California. It's right along the border of Nevada and California here. It's north of the Mono Lake here. This is the Mono Lake here. Notice that island here. It's not just an island. That is the summit of the Mono Lake volcano. Mono Lake volcano here. Bridgeport, California, a 2.6 earthquake and a 1.5. Okay? Bridgeport, California has some good sized earthquakes. It's also part of the Walker Lane Fault. The Walker Lane Fault. Going north, this is Carter Springs, Nevada. Also part of what? The Walker Lane Fault Zone. All of this stuff is linked together, folks. It's all linked together. Does anybody have any questions for me? Rebecca's here, NCWQ Explorer. I welcome her. She's a very dear friend of mine and a friend of the programs. She says, Joaquin Romer, the small ones lead to liquefaction, and bigger quakes, especially if they're swarming. Absolutely. Liquefaction or liquefaction. That is very dangerous because when those earthquakes happen, we're talking large earthquakes, very large earthquakes. Liquefaction occurs if the sand and the soil in that area is very loamy. Because what happens when the earth shakes? It brings up the water table. And it makes that sand and loamy soil area sink. Everything that's on that loamy soil area sinks like quicksand. Okay? And it's likely to happen all over Southern California. In fact, all over California and up into Washington and Oregon as well. Liquefaction. It always happens. It always happens. Okay? Michael McKinney says, oh man. Yeah, oh man is right. Okay? This area is going to hit. I promise you, there is going to be a major earthquake here. It's a matter of time. There is a guy out there, his name is Luke, I can't remember his name. He's a bozo. He has gotten on the air. He's gotten on YouTube. He has gotten a website where he claims every Sunday that Los Angeles is going to be hit with a 7.0 earthquake. Holmquist, Luke Holmquist. Don't get involved with him. You see him online, walk away from it. Turn it off. Don't pay attention to Luke Holmquist. He does not know what he's talking about. How could we have a 7.0 earthquake forecasted to hit every Sunday in Los Angeles? It's virtually impossible. Yes, we're going to get a large earthquake there. It's a matter of time. But for him to forecast a major earthquake every Sunday for the past 2 or 3 years, he's out of his mind. He absolutely does not know what he's talking about. Okay, so don't pay attention to people like him. Also, I want to say something else. A lot of people said this. Another creator here on YouTube said it before me. Don't be scared, be prepared. Don't be scared, be prepared. This is also the last day of September. The last day of September. Just because it is the last day of September, the last day of National Preparedness Month, it does not have to be the last day of your preparedness month or your preparedness life. You need to be prepared. We've talked a lot about it. You need to be prepared for whatever might happen, and it will. I promise you, it's going to happen. It's a matter of time. It's literally a matter of time. And a major event is coming. I promise you that. If you guys have any questions of me, I know I've done a lot of talking here. And there's a reason I have. I wanted to make sure you have this information because I felt it's important. Do you guys have any questions for me about anything? About anything? Michael McKinney says the ground is very sandy around here. Yes, I believe you told me where you live, and I believe you're right. It's very sandy and loamy soil. and you could get some liquefaction there. Kimberly Hopkins said, I just saw this, I'm not getting notifications. Kim, I'm so sorry. You may have to exit out of our group and then come back in. Okay? What does that mean? That means you unsubscribe and immediately resubscribe. Okay? That usually will solve that problem. And when you resubscribe, you click on that little bell icon in the tiny circle. Click on that bell icon and click the word all, A-L-L. That should get you re-notified when we come on the air. It doesn't always work, but it mostly does for a good share of people. And you have to do that once or twice a week. Otherwise, YouTube continues to play these stupid butthead games. And that's what they are, butthead games. Okay? Now there's something else I want to talk about. I have decided as of earlier today, I will be leaving Facebook probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. You won't see my shiny, smiling face on Facebook again. I will take myself off of Facebook within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Why? They finally kicked Julie Elliott, Scooter Pie, off of Facebook. Again. She didn't do anything wrong. She didn't violate any of their public guidelines or safety guidelines. That's what they said she did. She didn't do that. She didn't do that. Facebook is getting to be the worst place ever. In fact, the Better Business Bureau has given Facebook an F rating, a fail rating. The Better Business Bureau this week gave Facebook a fail rating. I'm going to be leaving Facebook within the next 2 or 3 weeks. My personal page and my emergency management page will disappear from Facebook. Now, if you guys want to reach me and see what's going on, I will continue to be on MeWe. M-E-W-E, MeWe. You can find me there. I have my own personal page there, and I have my Emergency Management Associates page on MeWe. You can find me on Instagram. And some of you may loathe me for doing this, but I'm also an emergency manager on TikTok. I have my own emergency management page on TikTok, and I will continue to put things there, probably for no more than 10 minutes at a time, about emergencies there. I'll be talking nothing but emergencies on TikTok. Okay, so you'll see me there. You can also find me on Telegram. I'm all over Telegram. I've got 2 different emergency management pages on Telegram to talk about emergencies and disasters and such like that. I also have an Emergency Management Associates spiritual thread talking about scriptures and things especially associated with our hearts and our lives. So you can find me there as well. A lot of you, I can't say a lot of you, but some of you are on Telegram. And I welcome you to there as well. Okay? Do you guys have any questions for me? Okay? Rebecca just put up the MeWe site so you can go join MeWe. When you find me, I'm Ron Tyler. I'm there. Look for me. When you find me there, ask me for friendship or whatever they call it there. And I will very gladly welcome you into our family on MeWe. I want you there. Okay? There's also a disaster warnings page on MeWe. Scooter Pie helped set that up about a year or so ago. So those of you that want to keep up with emergency and disaster stuff, find our disaster warnings page there as well. Okay? Just so you know. Now, I want to give you a heads up as well. Don Patoka, he's had some personal problems because of his age lately, but his wife is not doing good at all. They both need our prayers. Don Patoka is a dear friend of mine. We've known each other for a lot of years. His wife has been in and out of 2 different hospitals in Salt Lake City. The latest, the University of Utah Hospital. They transferred her out of that hospital into a rehabilitation place. And frankly, the rehabilitation place didn't do its job. This is hard. Don's wife, Louise, somehow fell out of bed, was laying on her back on the floor and bleeding from the back of her head. She's got a bump on her head. She's now got some stitches in the back of her head, and nobody will take any responsibility for Mrs. Patoka falling out of bed and getting hurt. She needs our prayers. They both need our prayers. We appreciate all of your prayers for the Patokas right now. Don has some real issues because of that. Financially, he doesn't know how he's going to pay for the bills, because on top of the insurance not doing its job, now he's got to come up with about $149 a day for his wife to be in that rehabilitation unit. And he's not sure how they're going to be able to do it, but he says we got to do it no matter what. So that's what's going on. Some of you have wondered what has been going on with Don. You haven't seen him on here lately. That's why. He has been watching our program on and off, but he has not been able to get on the chat because of where he's at, and he hasn't been able to spend the time like he would like with us. But he sends his love. He sends prayers for everybody. But folks, honestly, Don and his wife need our prayers in a big way. I asked him if there's anything else that we can do for him. He said no, just prayers. So that's what's going on there. So please pray for them. Belzil says, I would never leave a family member alone in a hospital. They do not have the staff support. And that's what Don is doing. The only time Don is leaving his wife's side is to go out and get something to eat and come right back. He's not leaving his wife alone anymore. Okay? Vicky K says, tell Don that as long as he pays something, they won't turn him over to collection, even if it's only $20 a month. And I agree. That's what I am doing. I still have thousands of dollars in debt because of my cancer treatment. I've got another bill coming up due, probably close to $250 by the end of October. Somehow I got to come up with that again too. And that hurts. That hurts big time. I appreciate all of your support here, both not just on the Super Chat, but those of you who continue to contribute to our PayPal and our Venmo locations, and they're just at the top of this program description, just below this video here today. And also, you're sending support over here through the mail to our post office box, P.O. Box 422, Valdese, North Carolina, zip code 28690. So that's what's going on, guys. I want to give you an update about Don. I want to tell you what's going on. Right now, we're about 3 hours from the shutdown of the United States of America, which would be a crying shame. I'm hoping the legislatures will grow some huevos and get something done, because we are paying the bills for them to be here. Okay? And they're getting paid whether they shut down the government or not. That's the sad thing about it. And if the government shuts down, our military is also not going to get paid. Okay? Sleeping Volcano says Dennis brought her back to Denver on Thursday. Left today to go back. He has surgery on Monday in Salt Lake City. So Sleeping Volcano also needs prayers for her husband Dennis. He's had some health issues for a while now. We love Dennis. He's a great guy. I personally have not talked to him, but I know he's a great guy. I appreciate it very much. Okay? Rebecca says they voted for 45 more days before a shutdown. That's what the House did right before I came on the air. I checked. The House voted for it. Let me refresh this page and see if the Senate is doing anything else here. It doesn't look like the Senate is doing anything yet. They're probably still debating to see what they're going to do. Okay, the House about 3 hours ago now passed a 45-day measure to keep the government open, but right now the bills in the House or in the Senate in Washington, and it remains to be seen what the Senate is going to do. And it looked like earlier that the Senate was not going to approve the continuing resolution. Okay? So I don't know what the Senate is going to do. They're in the process of voting about it now. Okay? They're trying to vote on the bill to avert a shutdown. Just a second, I'm trying to pull up the latest information here. Let's look here and see if the Senate, nope. Okay, I'm corrected. Okay, Rebecca is right. Here is the latest. In an 88-9 vote, the Senate approved the House passed continuing resolution. Continuing resolution that would fund the United States for another 45 days. At least 60 votes were needed for passage. They got 88 votes. So the Senate has avoided a shutdown of the United States government. They've got another 45 days coming. It looks right now that it'll be mid-November before the government will have another possible shutdown. So folks, that's good that it didn't shut it down. At least we will get paid. The Social Security, the government, the military will continue to get paid. Government shutdowns can cost the American economy billions of dollars. There have been 4 shutdowns in recent history that have lasted 5 days or more, with significant consequences. So this time we have avoided a big one again. Again, the Senate has voted for a continuing resolution. 88-9 votes. 88 yeas, 9 nays. So the government has avoided a shutdown at this point in time. That is a good thing. Does anybody have any more questions for me? Yeah, Rebecca says, and then it'll start all over again. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Now, folks, tomorrow morning, and excuse me, boy, I can't talk tonight. Maybe I was too tired. Tomorrow morning, we're going to start our Sunday school class. Come follow me at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow morning only. 10 a.m. Eastern Time for Come Follow Me, the Savior said. Okay, I look forward to seeing you all there bright and early tomorrow morning. Okay, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning for Come Follow Me, the Savior said. I'd really appreciate all of you here with me tomorrow morning. Okay, so guys, I hope you have a great night and a better tomorrow. Really, if anything else happens tonight, we'll be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, have a great night, guys. Thanks for being here with us. If you liked what we've talked about tonight, please give us a thumbs up before you leave. Also, if you want to go ahead and leave some comments below our video after we go off the air, that would be appreciated as well. Thank you all for being here. Again, thank you for your support. I don't know what we'd do without it. You guys mean everything to me. You are not just my family and my friends, but you're literally everything. God be with you. God take care of you. God be with you until we meet again. Have a great night, guys. We will see you on the other side. Good night, everybody.